It's good to be in the house of the Lord. Hallelujah. This Sunday. Hallelujah. God just loves when we put him first. I'm seeking the Lord about what to bring today. All week I've been seeking him. I heard in my spirit just now, Esther. So we're going to go to the book of Esther. God is alive and shows his word. And a lot of times in my experience of teaching, you see the word just change as people come in. The people who are there, the people and what the people need. And so right now we're going to talk about Esther and what they needed from her. In the book of Esther, and let me get to it. Chapter 4. Such a time as this. What time is this? As servants of the Lord, we have to begin to discern the time that it is, the season that it is, and who we need to be in this season. And it's funny, as I was riding up to come pick y'all up, the Lord began to speak to me about that. About sometimes being still and waiting to see who is he calling us to rise up to be in the season and what's needed from us. And so I'm going to start with Esther 4. And I want to go to, let's start at the beginning. Here, I'll come over here. I'll just read through it quickly. This is 3. So just on a little recap of the previous chapters. The king had a queen Vashti, and she was put away at this point because she wouldn't come out. The king and his friends, they were banqueting, and they had been drinking, and they had been banqueting for a while, and he sends for the queen, and she decides, I'm not coming out, tell him I said no. And she was with all the other wives of all the men, 170 provinces, the princes and the nobles and those who ruled the provinces in their areas were with her. And so what they began to say to the king was, hey, if she could just deny you and she's with our wives, she'll teach our wives that they can take authority over our word too. You must deal with her. And because of that, she was put away. And so she was put away, and they sought a new queen for him. Then began they to seek a new queen for him. And so they went into the land, and all the pure and the most fairest, the most beautiful virgins were sought out for the king. And he brought them all into the king's house, and he began to prepare them. And the Lord was talking to me about preparation. And just like he was talking about the seasons and, sometimes what we tend to go through. A lot of times what we're going through is to prepare us for what is next. A lot of times, that's why instead of crying in your tribulations, we gotta get this, gird up our loins. The Bible says gird up our loins. And so you think about girding up your loins. What does that mean? I'm thinking of the movie, what's What's the movie called? With the boat. What's the movie called with the boat that sunk? Titanic. I'm just thinking, I know it starts with a D. Anyway, it's a time where her mother got the corset on her, and she's pulling that corset as hard as she can. She's pulling it so tight. But what is she doing? She's strengthening the core of her. For her to put on the dress, but also strengthening her. And a lot of times, women in who worked on farms, who worked in the day, who did a lot of things, they will wrap their muscles. They will wrap their muscles to save their muscles, because they knew they was going to do a lot of heavy lifting. They knew they were going to do things. They wore those corsets to strengthen them so they wouldn't put their back out, so their belly would be strengthened to do the work that they were doing, because sometimes they had to do men's work. They had to do the work and their work so it wouldn't mess up their muscles, so it wouldn't tear their muscles. They would strengthen, they would prepare themselves that way. And God calls for us to, when he says gird up our loins, to strengthen ourselves for what we have to go through. Okay, and so in the midst of the preparation of preparing them to preparing all the virgins, that the king might choose a queen. That's the process they were in. And a lot of times when we're in different seasons in our life and we're going through trials and tribulations and sometimes persecutions, we don't always see it that way, but a lot of times it is just that. It is a preparation to prepare us, to strengthen us for what is next, for what we're going to go through. Sometimes with your greatest blessing, it might be a side of persecution. You rise up to this place and you're promoted, but all of a sudden here comes the persecution with it. But if you paid attention to the season of persecution you was in before, it strengthens you in that if you took the time to pray and to seek God and to become stronger and not let it move you, not let it move you in your heart and your mind and in your emotions, that you become beside yourself every time someone says something evil about you, every time somebody lie about you. You know those things aren't true, and you know what? I'm putting in God's hand and God's going to show them that it's not true. When we do that instead, when we keep our eyes focused on what we're doing rather than what they're saying over there, it strengthens us. That's girding up our loins. It strengthens us to go through and to be ready for the next thing God is calling us to do. You never know what God is calling you to do. And you never know what seasons he's coming, and he's just going to pick you up and pull you over and put you there. And you know what? That's what happened to Esther. That's what happened to Esther. And so here Esther is. She was chosen by the king. The king loved her. And she was chosen by the king. And now what happens? Well, the jealousy of Haman. Okay, because we just skipped over chapter 3, but in chapter 3, Haman was desiring to be lifted up and to be worshiping the Lord. He was doing all this work. And that's why when you're working, the Bible says, everything you do it unto the Lord. Why does it say that? It say that because anything you do in hopes that man would recognize, it could cause a downfall if they don't. It could cause a downfall in your heart, that you begin to, slack on what you were doing because no one's noticing what I'm doing anyway. What we do because God requires that we give our best no matter what. And sometimes if no one sees you, if God is the only one that sees you, it counts more than anything. Because right here, or in chapter 3, when God brought to the king's attention that someone needed to be honored, God brought it to his attention that somebody needed to be honored. God did. So nothing that you do is done in vain, that God don't see you and he don't make sure at some point in time that you're rewarded, that at some point in time that the person that needs to take notice to what you're doing takes notice to what you're doing. He makes sure that every time, especially when he see you doing a pure work from your heart. You're just giving it your best because you want to be a better person. God always honors that. Always. And he always finds a way to make sure you know that he's seen you and that he's going to honor you, that he hasn't forgotten you, that he is going to bless you. And you know what? Sometimes it takes a little longer, but sometimes when the blessings come upon you, they are so great that it was worth the wait. And so as we come to chapter 4, we're coming to Mordecai who was rent his clothes. Let's read it a little bit. When Mordecai received all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry. And if you know the history of the Jews, anytime and Mordecai was considered one of the elders, he was considered someone important. He was one. If he did something like that, then everybody who looked up to him knew something's wrong. Something just happened. And so as he did that, why did he do that? He did that because Haman had to honor him by walking him all through the streets. And he decided to deceive the king. Haman decided to deceive the king and to tell the king that the Jews were against him. This is the people who worship a God that is not your God. These people are not for you. They are against you. If you want to bring up your bounty, your money, and raise up your kingdom, he was like, put a bounty on everyone's head. Tell everyone in the land that the Jews is worth, I believe it was some thousands of dollars for that period of time. And they were worth a lot of money to kill them and bring their heads to you. He put an assassination on the lives of all the Jews. So what was Mordecai's reaction? Right here. When he received all that was done, because what he had him do, he had him to put up signs everywhere, send them out to all the provinces, send them out to everybody, that when this point in time comes, he established a time frame for it. When this point in time comes, 6 months from now, you can come into this land and you can kill every Jew, and we will pay you for every Jew that you kill. We'll pay you for it. So Mordecai rent his clothes, he put on sackcloth and ashes. What is he doing now? Well, usually when the Jews do that, it was to get the attention of God. It was to get God's attention. This wasn't about getting man's attention. This was him crying out to God. And they came even for the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. You couldn't just be before the king any kind of way. This was a glorious king. This was a prosperous king. This was a successful king. And guess what? He didn't believe in it. And so you couldn't bring that into his gate. But yet here Mordecai was. And Mordecai was well respected in the kingdom. He was one of the king's men. He was well respected in the kingdom. But you still couldn't come into the king's gate with sackcloth and ashes. Do you know what that looks like? A grown man with sackcloth on and ashes all over him. Ashes represented death. And the sackcloth represented the suffering of the flesh. And they came before God that way to show God, I've come in total suffering and humility because I need you to move on our behalf. So this was a great cry out to God. But did it honor that king? No. That's why it wasn't allowed. So, and in every province whithersoever the king commanded, and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. Many. Most of them. Many. It says that the king decree went out. Because remember, Haman set that up, that the king was sending out this word. And that the king sent out this decree. And this was under the king's authority and under his command. That's why we have to be careful when we walk in places of high authority, that we know those who serve under us. You must know who work with you and who serve with you, depending on what your position is. You got to understand that person. Why? Because they'll get you in trouble and then set you up and make it look like you did it. So you got to know who you're dealing with. Hallelujah. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then the queen was exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. They just told me I was going to die soon. I'm not thinking about the king right now. But here he's at the gate. Why is he at the gate? I need to get her attention. You're married to the king for a reason. I need your attention. He wasn't just at the gate. Mordecai was skillful. He wasn't just at the bottom of the king's gate in sackcloth and ashes. then called Esther for Hathach and one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. Now, Esther's inside the kingdom. Remember, the decree went out into the city and into all the provinces. It wasn't inside the kingdom. It had no need to be. Haman didn't have a reason to present that all in the kingdom because he didn't believe any of the Jews were there other than Mordecai. His message was sent outside the kingdom. So Esther didn't know what was going on. She didn't know why he was out there like that. That's why she sent clothes out there. She wasn't being insensitive. She didn't know what was going on. Put some clothes on. You know you're not supposed to be out there like that. Come on. And no one could connect her to him at that time. No one was connecting Esther to Mordecai. And Esther is the queen. So she wasn't going down to the gate to talk to him. Even as the queen, there were certain things that was expected of her. Remember, they just put a queen away. You ain't just doing what you want because you're queen either. There's certain things that is expected of us as we walk in this kingdom. And now I'm talking about the kingdom of Christ. It doesn't matter what title we carry, we are still subject to the king. We can't just do what we want. You can't just lay hands on people if God didn't say lay hands on them. You can't just go forth and heal if God is not healing. You can't go forth and speak a word of prophecy if God's not speaking to the people at that time. You can't do what you want because you carry a gift. It must be under the authority of God that the anointing will hover over and perform that thing that the Holy Ghost wants done. That's why the Holy Ghost is so important in the ministry of God. Because he is the one that governs over what's being done spiritually. He is the one that makes sure that it is performed in the lives of the people when they leave us. Hallelujah. So, 6. So Hathach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened unto him, and the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. So the king went along with this because he felt like this was going to prosper his kingdom, and that's how Haman presented this to him. This is going to prosper your kingdom, and these people aren't prosperous for you anyway. They're costing you. Sometimes people know how to make the worst situations look like it's the best. And if we've been through anything and we live long enough, we know it. We know it to be true. No matter how small the matter is, you can have someone come along for the destruction of another and make it seem like this is the best thing. This is the best thing for you. This is the best thing for the company. This person that hardly works anyway. They're always somewhere. They're always doing this. They're always doing that. Get rid of them. And really it's that person. They're jealous. 8. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she might go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. Up until this point, the king did not know she was a Jew. And that was under the instruction of Mordecai. Just be wise, shows wisdom. Up until that point, she didn't know. He didn't know who she was. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hathach and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come into the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. My time has passed. I can't just come into the king. I can't just go before the king like that. Why? Because this was a matter of law. This was a matter of law, so this was not just her going to see the king to small talk. This is about a decree that has been set in place, and now is law. And now he's asking her, go address this law as queen. And she like, I can't just go in under him. If I go into the courts where they function and where they do law, she's, I could be put to death. Even me being a queen, she said, I could be put to death because it doesn't matter who it is. She said, the only way that I wouldn't be put to death is if he hold out the golden scepter to me. Then I need favor for him to do that. Why? Because the king is, remember, the king put away his first wife under the instructions of all his council. So it's no guarantee that she was going to go in there and just have favor with the king. Amen. This was a wise woman that was paying attention to what was going on in the courts. If you ever watch any of those kind of shows, I know we got some, you like royalty and things like that. If you ever watch that, how they function, how they operate, when all the matters of the king is going on, the queen is usually not there. The king is there, his counsel is there, his advisors are there, and those are the ones making the law. Unless the queen has some way overpowered him or deceived him, she's usually not present when those things are going on. And there's no place for her there. And that's what she was telling Mordecai. She was like, go let him know I can't just go do that, what he's saying. But remember, there was now a bounty on the head of every Jew. What else was Mordecai going to tell her? Their lives was on the line. And Mordecai is saying, and you know what? So is yours. You safe because they don't know you a Jew. Hallelujah. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews, for if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? What was he saying to her? You can be quiet and hide in the king's house all you want. He said, and I'm telling you, God's going to send a great deliverance. And he's going to deliver all of us. He said, but if you don't rise up and do your part, you're going to die. You and your father's house. Yes. Those are serious words. Because what was really important to the Jews, if you understand the history of the Jews, was they knew a Messiah was coming. So they understood the importance of heritage and of legacy and of lineage. They understood that. See, nowadays people don't understand. People don't always understand that. How important it is to raise up your family and to prepare the legacy of the life that's after you. Now, understand the importance of pouring God into their children to prepare them, because you're not going to always be here. You got to make sure someone carries on your name. When you think about Ancestry.com, what is that about? It's about reconnecting people to the lineage that they've lost. Why do you think that's so important and so big? To know where you came from and who you're connected to. That's why that's so important. And a lot for us, it's not just for black people, but a lot for us black people, because of the disconnection, because of the slavery, because of that bondage. Because there was a disconnection where for a while we was disconnected and didn't know where we came from. To the point now they're doing blood tests to trace where you came from. That's showing that it's serious. Where you came from is serious. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, that's what God was saying before some of you came in. Who know whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? We walk in a spiritual kingdom. And do you know what place God is preparing you for even now? Because he is preparing you for a place. And so it's very important. And he's talking to everybody in this room to be paying attention to what God is doing in your life at this particular time. Because what he's doing today is going to establish your tomorrow. What God is doing in your life today is going to establish your tomorrow. What's going on in your life in this season is establishing what's to come in your life. Even if you can't see it, even if you don't know it, that doesn't change the fact that what's to come, how he is going to use you, who he's going to raise you up to be, the gifts and everything that he has put in you, how he's going to use you. Do you know Esther had a big decision to make right here? You're either going to be quiet or you're going to speak up. Which one is it? Hallelujah. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. Those are big words. And a great decision. And she had to make a decision that she knew when she made it, when she sent that word, that she was going to put her life on the line. That she was going to put her life on the line. Hallelujah. This might cost me my life, but you know what? Everybody on board with what I'm about to do. That's what that meant. And why did she say fast for 3 days and 3 nights? We're not going to go deep into the whole fasting thing, but this was going to bring together for all of them to connect on one accord, that they can agree on one thing. And what was that? That when Esther went into the court to see the king, that he would extend the golden scepter and hear her. You know how powerful it is to come together as a people and fast, especially for 3 days with no food and no water? You know what that does to you? Let me tell you. When you fast for 3 nights and 3 days with no water, everything on the flesh, on your fleshly level, stops. Everything that's talking to you, everything that's baiting you, everything that's distracting you, those things you can't get away from, they die. And usually